Before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, before Batman vs Superman, before Netflix made superhero shows, there was X-Men. This 2000 classic showed that large casts in superhero movies could work, paving the way for the MCU and DCCU. But it's been over 15 years since that happened, and 2 semi-reboots later, we've arrived at X-Men Apocalypse. The good news is the franchise has remained fresh, and if anything, is stronger than ever. The film kicks off far out of the usual timeline, thousands of years ago at a ceremony honouring the mutant pharaoh of Cairo, En-Sabah-Nur, or as you and I might call him, Apocalypse. His underlings aren't very happy about his tyrannical rule and make a plan to entomb him forever. It works, but only partly. With a new ability to regenerate, he survives for thousands of years until he's accidentally awoken and then starts to gather his horsemen. Meanwhile, in the 10 years since we last saw them, the X-Men have had a few changes. Magneto has a wife and kid and works as a humble steel labourer in Poland, while Xavier has got his School for the Gifted off the ground, even opening with his patented Once and Future King lecture. I mean, he's taught that book in at least 3 movies now. He's probably not very good at actually teaching it if it's taking that long to tell everyone. Mystique is rescuing wayward mutants like the young circus brat Nightcrawler, and Hank McCoy is teaching at the school with Xavier. That's the world that young Scott Summers gets thrust into when his powers manifest rather explosively. And after a vision from troubled teen Jean Grey, the disparate group comes together to fight Apocalypse. Bryan Singer's direction is as operatic as ever, with the chaotic opening of X2 being mirrored with the portentous and dialogue-light assault on Apocalypse's pyramid, and a welcome reprise of Quicksilver's superspeed scene from Days of Future Past was met with cheers in my screening. The script does what it should, providing some nice character beats, particularly for Scott. He has the now ubiquitous powers out of control scene, a self-conscious mirror of Rogue, Angel and Magneto's scenes in previous films. He's ostensibly the main character of the film and has quite a complete character arc. That's nice because it makes the movie feel self-contained, which makes it accessible for first-time viewers, while also freeing up the filmmakers to be able to reference both past and future versions of the X-Men. Magneto himself is also further fleshed out, with some intense scenes revolving around Michael Fassbender's performance. For an actor of his skill, it's an easy decision to give him the thematic weight of the film to shoulder, and he really does very well with it indeed. Evan Peters as Quicksilver remains a delight, and he's the major source of comic relief in the film. That's a nice choice as it helps the other characters remain serious in the face of high stakes, while also providing comic relief without having the weird sort of everyone gets a sitcom one-liner feel that some recent Marvel pictures have had. The film suffers from the third act mass devastation common to all recent blockbusters, and from heavily featuring its least interesting component, the villain, Apocalypse, played by Oscar Isaacs. Like many, I wasn't sure about his makeup or costume, but actually it works pretty well in the final film. The real problem is that he's relatively generic. He's a sort of I am evil, I do evil stuff villain. There's nothing wrong with that in a movie with an aesthetic like this, all bubblegum and comic books. But next to Fassbender's brilliant, tortured, complex Magneto, or Jennifer Lawrence's brilliant, tortured, complex Mystique, it just sort of gets lost in the mix. And that's not really something you want to say about your main villain. But it's sort of been a summer of bad villains, hasn't it, really? From Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor that's all over the place, to Baron Zemo, who hardly gets any screen time in Captain America Civil War, where he's supposed to be the main bad guy. So maybe that's not a problem, maybe it's just in fashion to have a terrible villain. Either way, I think out of those 3 films, Apocalypse does the best with dealing with its shoddy villain work. When I come to an X-Men movie, I want to see the characters interacting with each other first and foremost. I want to see some new powers, I want to see them used creatively. And this film has that in spades, unlike, say, Civil War or Batman vs Superman. Singer's movie is high-octane summer blockbuster fun. It doesn't overreach by trying to be a 70s-esque conspiracy thriller or a socio-religious deconstruction of the meaning of power in the 21st century, or whatever you want to call Batman vs Superman. It's about people in costumes fighting each other with superpowers, and it has a glorious time with that concept. It's also accessible to those who are new to this series. I mean, it adds more layers if you understand who the characters are already, and it does build on previous films, but the roles and motivations of characters within this movie are clear. And that's something called self-containment that the MCU hasn't been able to do for a while. So, go and watch X-Men Apocalypse. It was really good fun, definitely worth the ticket price. This review originally appeared almost entirely on A Place to Hang Your Cape. Do go and visit the website, it's a great place for comic book news and reviews, and I write for them, so I'd love it if you did. Do comment down below if you've got anything to say about X-Men Apocalypse. I'd love to see if you felt that some characters got short shrift. There definitely wasn't enough Jubilee in it for me, because there was barely any Jubilee in it, which is a shame, because she's a great character. And don't forget to click subscribe to get the next review like this one when it comes out next week. Have a good one. See you later.